Welcome to the Search the Scriptures podcast, where we dive into Scripture and provide the explanation of it in the most accurate light that we can. Search the Scriptures is a podcast that is dedicated primarily to the Christian, challenging our brothers and sisters along with ourselves to see if we have set aside the commands of God to set up our own traditions. To do this, we use Scripture to explain Scripture. Please join us on this journey. All right, there we go. All right, so on today's Bible Topic Tuesday, the question was, how do you love others if you don't love yourself? Was the question. And so, well, the way I approach this probably not going to be, I guess, what the person who asked it is looking for. This is going to be kind of harsh, the way that we're going to go into Scripture looking at this and to quantify what it means to love yourself or to not love yourself, according to what Scripture says. Before I jump into it, any comments on this? All right, let's see if I missed the mark. See what happens. So we're going to be in, there's the title, I'm sorry. We're going to be in Proverbs quite a bit today. So Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 7 says, "The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel, for learning what wisdom and discipline are, for understanding insightful sayings, for receiving wise instruction in righteousness, justice, and integrity, for teaching shrewdness to the inexperienced, knowledge and discretion to a young man. A wise man will listen and increase his learning, and a discerning man will obtain guidance, for understanding a proverb or a parable, the words of the wise and their riddles. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and discipline." So we're going to be in Proverbs quite a bit on this study right here. And I started out with this because it says that the Proverbs are great for learning what wisdom is and for understanding insightful sayings. So Proverbs are a great go-to for these type of things. And then it goes on to say that for teaching shrewdness to the inexperienced and knowledge and discretion to a young man. Then it goes on to say fools despise wisdom and discipline, and that part is going to come up quite a bit. The foolish part, the fools. And before we go any further in this, any questions or comments on this? All right. Again, the question is, how do you love others if you don't love yourself? So let's go into this next one here. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 10 through 19 says, "My son, if sinners entice you, don't be persuaded. If they say, 'Come with us, let's set an ambush and kill someone. Let's attack some innocent person just for fun. Let's swallow them alive like Sheol, still healthy as they go down to the pit. We'll find all kinds of valuable property and fill our houses with plunder. Throw in your lot with us, and we'll all share our money. My son, don't travel that road with them or set foot on their path, because their feet run toward trouble and they hurry to commit murder. It is foolish to spread a net where any bird can see it, but they set an ambush to kill themselves. They attack their own lives. Such are the paths of all who make profit dishonestly. It takes the lives of those who receive it." So a lot is being said here, but what I want to point out here is where it says, "But they set an ambush to kill themselves. They attack their own lives." So a person who is going down this path, this is what we're leading to in this teaching, I guess, does not love themselves. This person does not love themselves, and this is what it says of them. It says that they're setting an ambush to kill themselves. Questions or comments before we go further on this? All right. Staying in Proverbs, chapter 29, verse 24 says, "The accomplices of thieves are their own enemies, they are put under oath and dare not testify. So this is telling us that someone who is accomplice for thieves, it tells us that they're their own enemies, or some translations will say hate their own souls, hate their own lives. And then it goes on to say they're put under an oath and dare not testify. Oath, or another translation will say curse, because that's what an oath is. If you break an oath, you are cursed. It says, and dare not testify. They don't say anything, even though they're put on that oath, under that oath, and they're made to testify. They don't say anything. So now they're in a curse. But it says specifically that they are their own enemies. They don't love themselves. They hate their own soul. Questions or comments on this so far?
So why do you think that is? Because it doesn't say that the thief hates their own soul. It said their accomplice.
They hate their own soul because they put them on their own selves under a curse by hearing that they're supposed to testify. They're put under oath and they don't say it. They don't testify. They don't testify to the truth, but they're put under a curse because of that. So because they're put under curse for not saying anything, because they're an accomplice of them, they hate their own lives. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that does. But why would they not just say the thief feels this way?
I don't know why the writer would say that. I'm sure the thieves also, it, as we were saying in the previous a couple of scriptures backwards, last scripture, we were saying about setting an ambush. It's saying to kill some people, some innocent people, and then it says to go and plunder their houses. And so those also would be the thieves. Those are the thieves. It says that they set an ambush to kill themselves. And then this very next scripture right here is saying the accomplice of such thieves are their own enemies. So I guess one and the same, they're under a curse, if that makes sense.
I got you.
Great question. All right. Says, make sure we hit the mark on this. We're asking, question is, how do you love others if you don't love yourself? So let's move on from this. So Proverbs chapter 8, verse 36 says, but those who fail to find me harm themselves. All who hate me love death. Now, who's speaking here is wisdom. Wisdom is speaking. And wisdom is characterized as a woman, and the woman is speaking, and she says, those who fail to find me, they hurt themselves. And if they hate me, they love death. So I bring this up because it's the opposite. I guess what I'm trying to say is, if a person loves themselves, they will find wisdom. Questions or comments on this? I know it's gonna seem kind of like a stretch, but I'm headed somewhere with this. All right. We're about to be done soon. Proverbs chapter 15, verse 32 says, those who disregard discipline despise themselves, but the one who heeds correction gains understanding. So again, the question is, how do you love others if you don't love yourself? You cannot love others if you don't love yourself. According to scripture, person that doesn't love themselves, this is the type of person that they are. They disregard discipline. And it says that they despise themselves because of they disregard it. In fact, wait, before I go into the next one, any question or comments on this?
I'd say interesting. Like none of these, it also all these verses are talking about despising yourself essentially, but it's the flip. I guess the flip side it doesn't really cover because it doesn't say despise themselves, but the one who heeds corrections loves themselves. So all these things there's an understanding and a wanting to know what's right and wrong. I guess that shows that you love yourself. Would that be accurate?
It would be. In fact, there's going to be a scripture that comes up that says fairly similar to what you're saying. Yes. And it will just plainly say that the flip side of this is that person loves himself. And so I got one more. It's a good comment on this. I got one more that I want to show before I got a couple more after this. But this is where I want to lead us to, is this portion right here in Proverbs chapter 14, verse 16. It says, one who is wise is cautious and turns away from evil, but a fool is reckless and careless. So this is why I say it gets harsh, because a couple of times now it says that this is what a fool is. A fool does not care about their own self. They don't love themselves. Therefore, they are reckless and they are careless. So the issue is, if you got a person that's reckless and careless, this is something I was talking to my daughter about, that if you got a person that's broken in that kind of way, they're going to hurt other people too, because they can't love other people. They don't know how to love themselves, so they can't love other people, and so they get reckless and they get careless. And we see it all the time. We see it in the news. We see it from people we know. We see it in the streets. We see people out there acting reckless. It's because they don't even value their own lives, so they'll throw their lives away, to jail, to prison, to death, because they don't value it. They don't value their lives, and because they don't value their lives, they don't value anybody else's life either. It can be from them going out there just committing violence in that kind of way. It can be from driving, just someone just being an aggressive driver, cutting people off, just dangerously driving. They don't care about themselves. They're putting their own selves in danger, because they don't care what happens to them. They don't care what happens to anybody else either. They do not know how to love themselves. And if a person does not know how to love themselves, they're not able to love someone else. Any questions or comments on this so far?
So would you say that, based on the previous scriptures that you brought up, that they don't even, it's almost like they don't even know the difference. Like they're not they're so lacking in understanding that they're not even smart enough to know that they're doing themselves harm like this.
Right. They don't understand that they're hating themselves. It's really the selfishness of the flesh that is at play here. But and you would think that is, it would seem like that's them loving themselves, but it's not. According to scripture, they actually hate themselves. They're setting themselves up for destruction. And so yeah, but to them, they absolutely love themselves. They're absolutely, I mean, this can go into so many different things. It can go to drug addiction. It can go to so many different things. But a person who does these things, I believe, just as you say, Ben, they're doing them not realizing that they truly hate themselves. They don't love themselves, because they're truly setting themselves up for failure. Great comment. Yeah, that's a great comment. Anybody else got anything on that one? All right. Proverbs chapter 19, verse 8. This is what Ben was talking about here. It says, whoever gets sense loves his own soul. He who keeps understanding will discover good. This is how the scripture tells us how a person loves themselves. They love themselves by gaining sense and understanding. This is how, through discipline of what the word says, of what God says. Now, I can apply this to so many different things. If a person, let's say we talk about homosexuality, we know that is a sin. And if you say you love that person and are okay with their homosexuality, them just living out that lifestyle, then you don't love that person. You hate their soul, because their soul, according to scripture, is going to be destroyed. This is how you are able to love yourself and then in turn love others. Questions or comments on this so far? All right. And to just bring this one on home, Mark chapter 12, verse 31, Jesus says, the second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There is no other commandment greater than these. So you will not be able to love your neighbor if you do not know how to love yourself.